Hello, you're watching Steph and Julia's Eden. And in this video, this is the last video in our Growing Tomatoes and Peppers Sustainably series. If you're new to the series, we will show you how we grew tomatoes, peppers, and other heat-loving plants from seed to harvest, cooking with them, learning about preserving them, and even recollecting the seeds to start the process all over again. When preserving tomatoes, there are many ways to do it. You can can them whole, make tomato sauce, make salsa, make sun-dried tomatoes, and more. In this video, we show you how we made sun-dried tomatoes with small tomatoes and how we made salsa verde with our own tomatillos.
A great way to preserve your tomatoes, which doesn't require any expertise in canning or pressure canning, which can be a bit nerve-wracking for people who might be new to that, is to just make sun-dried tomatoes in the oven. And today we're going to be doing that with these beautiful little tomatoes. You can do this with any little tomato. However, little ones tend to work a little better because they have less juices in them naturally, less liquid, and so they tend to dry out better. And you can do this without any special materials. We're going to be doing this today really simply in the oven. Let's start by cutting our tomatoes in half. Tomatoes are all cut, sliced up. You want to just salt them a little bit before they go into the oven. We're going to preheat the oven to 225 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're going to start by putting these tomatoes in the oven for 2.5 hours.
2 hours later.
After 2.5 hours, you're going to take your tomatoes out of the oven. Oh yeah, they're looking more dry for sure. And you're just going to come with your spatula and you're going to press down. Oh, be careful. You can spray. You're going to press down on the tomatoes to get more of the juices out. So you can see that got a lot of juice out of these tomatoes. We're going to put that back in the oven now for 2 more hours. So it's been 2 hours after we squeezed the juice out of some of the tomatoes, and I can see these sun-dried tomatoes still need more time in the oven. So I'm going to put them back in for another hour and see how they do.
You can store your sun-dried tomatoes in a plastic bag in your refrigerator for up to 1 month.
I want to show you how we make some delicious salsa verde with our tomatillos from our garden, which we brought over from our old property. As well as I have all the spread ingredients ready to go here. Some fresh parsley, our hot serrano peppers that we have turned into dried pepper flakes, garlic, fresh lemon juice. It's all here, and we'll get right into the recipe now. To start, we're going to remove the husks from the green tomatillos. to cut your tomatillos in half and place them cut side down on your baking sheet. Before you throw your tomatillos in the oven, you're just going to throw in some garlic cloves on there as well. While your tomatillos are in the oven, you can go ahead and chop up your onions. Once your tomatillos have cooled down a bit, the next step is you want to put all your ingredients into a blender or a food processor. Once you have softly blended your salsa verde, you can pour it into a bowl. And there you have it. Some beautiful, chunky salsa verde.
While making salsa verde, you can also take your largest green tomatillos or green tomatoes left on the vine and make fried tomato slices. They are surprisingly delicious with a sour cream dip.
Honey, how is the salsa verde tasting?
It's spectacular.
He woke up and he immediately began eating it. Now this is a great salsa verde recipe for putting in your fridge, eating over the next few days, or for serving immediately at a party or dinner. But if you want to preserve your salsa verde, you can't just use any old recipe like I showed in this video. You need to use a scientifically proven recipe that is safe for canning, which means that it's been scientifically proven that the acidity will be high enough and the canning process will be sufficient enough to reduce any risk whatsoever of toxins from getting into your cans and harming you in the long run. This is particularly important for botulism, which is the most dangerous toxin that could grow in your cans. So if that is of interest to you, go check out a scientifically proven salsa verde recipe. You can find them on the USDA websites online. And you can use a water bath or steam bath canner, such as this one, to create that recipe. And you want to follow the ingredients exactly. Do not substitute the ingredients. It's really, really important to ensure the acidity level is high enough. And you want to follow the instructions exactly as well, with the exact portions and also the correct jar sizes. And that way you can be sure that your recipe is safe for long-term preservation in your pantry.
One great way to store your peppers for months is simply to freeze them. Peppers freeze quite well while retaining their texture as long as they're defrosted slowly. This is a perfect option for bell peppers, which can be eaten in all sorts of stir-fries, soups, and other recipes. For our hot serrano peppers, we decided to make dried hot chili flakes. This recipe is way easier than you may think and gives you loads of dry spices to use all winter long. Okay, so we took the hot serrano peppers that we let dry inside the oven for over 6 hours.
Don't forget your gloves and your eye protection when working with hot peppers.
And I put them inside this Ziploc bag, all dried up in there. I'm putting it in the mortar through the Ziploc bag and just crushing them. And it's coming out as this fine, like these chili flakes, but with hot serrano peppers. Although not shown in this video, you can also try your hand at making hot sauce with your hot peppers. We hope to make homemade hot sauce with our hot pepper harvest next year on our 10-acre farm. If you're looking instead for a hot pepper that you can have indoors for using fresh in recipes throughout the winter, look no further than the Aji Charapita Pepper. This yellow Peruvian pepper is very ornamental and the perfect size with the perfect kick for throwing in all sorts of recipes and can live indoors by a window. This is another great way to continue spicing your food with fresh peppers without having to make hot sauce or resorting to dried chili flakes, as this series also follows our Malabar spinach and a rosemary. to other heat-loving plants. Here are updates on those.
So on our teepees, we've got, of course, our Malabar spinach. It has loved the hot times in this weather. The late summer is perfect for it. It's creating lots of vegetation. It's also getting all these seeds going. All the seeds ready. Looks pretty. We love this. It goes great in all salads. Great in smoothies too. You want to mix up for your greens. And it's apparently a superfood. Jam-packed full of nutrients.
Our Malabar spinach was lucky to survive a storm which knocked down our scarlet runner beans. But nevertheless, once the weather turned colder in the fall, our Malabar spinach began to die. Once our Malabar spinach fully dried and the berries became seeds, we collected the seeds and dried them on the counter. Once fully dry, the seeds can be stored in a plastic bag to save for planting for the following spring. Our rosemary, on the other hand, is a herb that, if potted, can be easily brought inside to continue harvesting fresh rosemary all year round. We put our rosemary near a south-facing window in our farmhouse and watered it sparingly throughout the winter. You can also hang rosemary upside down to dry and store the dry rosemary in spice containers for cooking. Both these options are super simple and together should give you lots of rosemary to use all winter long. Before we knew it, the growing season in our zone had come to an end and it was time to clean up the garden. While this wasn't the first time we grew tomatoes and peppers, we learned a lot making this series. For instance, in previous years, we struggled with our peppers, but this year we used grow lights when starting our peppers indoors, and it made a world of difference. We had the best pepper harvest we ever had by far. We definitely recommend it. We also got the chance to grow some unique tomato varieties, like the Little Gold Rush mini tomatoes, which our chickens loved, and we definitely plan to continue growing year after year. And we grew tomatillos for the first time, giving us delicious Salsa Verde, a great fall or early winter treat. This taught us that you can even salvage and eat green tomatoes as fried tomato slices or in other recipes as the weather starts getting colder.
If you're growing your own tomatoes and you want to save the seeds so you can grow them again next year, it's super easy to do, but there are a couple things to keep in mind. If you grew a wide range of tomato varieties in your garden, it's likely that your tomatoes may have been cross-pollinated. Insects move from one tomato variety or tomato flower to another tomato flower, and they can move pollen across tomato varieties, resulting in the genetics of the seeds being basically a hybrid of two different tomatoes. So if you grew, for example, cherry tomatoes and you want to grow them again next year, but they were cross-pollinated with a large tomato variety, what you actually get from those seeds the following year might be some sort of mix. So if you are concerned about cross-pollination, there are measures you can take to prevent that. As soon as you see a flower forming on your tomato plant during the summer, you can put a little baggie, a little burlap baggie on that flower to prevent any seeds from moving and pollinating that flower as soon as it opens. When you do see that the flower has opened, you can go yourself and manually pollinate it with the exact tomato flower variety that you want to pollinate it with, ensuring that you get a pure genetic variety of tomato. Then you put your baggie back on and you make sure that no other insects can come after you and cross-pollinate that tomato. Once you've done that, eventually that flower will grow into a tomato, and you want to take the seeds specifically from that exact tomato that had the little burlap bag on it. Other tomatoes on the same tomato plant could have still been cross-pollinated. When you've taken the burlap bag off your tomatoes, you can still mark that particular tomato right on the stem with a ribbon or something, just so you know that that is the tomato that has the pure seed genetics that you want to collect. You want to wait till the tomato is as ripe as possible before picking it off the vine. This will ensure your tomato seeds are fully developed inside the tomato. And once you have those specific tomatoes, you know that the tomatoes are not cross-pollinated, or you don't mind if they're cross-pollinated. You know, it can be very fun to just discover what comes up next year, what kind of hybrid varieties you get. Then you can take that tomato, you cut it in half. If it's a large tomato, you can scoop out with a spoon, or if it's a small tomato, you can just squeeze the gel and the seeds into a container or cup. even one tomato can produce a very large number of seeds. So you might only need a select few for your entire garden to get enough seeds for your entire garden. Great, so I'm not sure how many seeds I have in there, but there is quite a lot, perhaps even 100 in that little amount. So once you've done that, you're just gonna add a little bit of water and then let this sit on your counter for the next few days. Every day you're just gonna swirl it around, and eventually you'll see that there's a separation. There'll be a separation of the pulp and the water, and that's when, and the seeds will sink to the bottom. And that's how you know that your seeds are ready to be filtered out. Now to collect seeds from your pepper plants. The process is even easier than it is for tomatoes. Now I'm wearing rubber gloves, but you know, I don't need to. These are just regular bell peppers. But if you are working with hot peppers, you will want to be careful and wear some protective gloves. This is where your seeds will be drying for a couple days before you are able to store them. You want them to be 100% dry before you store them. Any moisture can result in mold or other issues affecting your seeds. There you have it. So this will just sit on the counter for a week until I'm convinced it's 100% dry, and then I will throw these seeds into a plastic baggie. Label, you can label the variety already with a little piece of paper or whatever on this plate so you don't forget what variety pepper this is. And similar with tomatoes, there can be cross-pollination with your pepper plants, and so if you haven't taken measures to prevent cross-pollination in the garden and you're growing many different varieties of bell peppers and hot peppers, you very well could end up with a hybrid next year. So keep that in mind, but otherwise you're good to go with growing your seeds.
Hello everyone. It has been a few days now that our tomatoes have been sitting in this water, and I've swirled it a couple times each day. And so now what you'll find is some of the pieces might float to the top and your seeds should float to the bottom. And so this means that your seeds are now separated from the protective film around them, and you can now filter the seeds. And so here I have a mesh sieve, and I'm going to filter these seeds through it. And right there, we have a large amount of seeds that have been filtered and separated out. I'm just gonna rinse these underwater and then leave them on a plate to dry. I'll probably let these just sit on my counter for a week until they're bone dry, and then I'll put them away.
If you enjoyed this series, you may also enjoy our herb growing series right here, which takes viewers from planting your herb seeds indoors all the way to harvest, preservation over winter, and more. Thanks for watching.